if there were two things that I wanted people to walk away with, like two truths to hold on to, the first one is, remember, technology is neutral, okay? It's like a brick. It's neither good nor bad. It's all in how it's used. But the second one is that we don't need to fear the tool. We need to form the user. I think that's so important. Again, we don't have a spirit of fear. We're not supposed to do that. And we shouldn't fear any new technology. What we have to do is make sure that we are forming the kids that God has entrusted us with to be able to use this technology in a good and wise way.
Hey there, and welcome to Growing Forward, a resource to help you keep growing between Sundays. Hey, my name is Andy. So glad that you are here today. I am so excited about this episode, this show, because in the studio, you don't just get to hear from me today. I've got Pastor Stephen Castleberry to my left. What's going on?
Hey, it is a good day. I just got back from a conference where I was able to teach youth workers about equipping parents to equip their kids with technology. So a lot of equipping going on there.
A lot of equipping.
It was good.
The equipping of the equippers.
That's right.
Very good.
Right.
Hey, well, one of the things that you talked about was technology. And so I thought, man, that's something that our church needs to hear, parents need to hear as we lead our church to follow Christ in a life-changing way. And so today, we're going to address some questions that a lot of parents may have, but it's not just for parents. Questions like, when should I give my child a smartphone? When is the right time to introduce social media? What about technology? Does the Bible have anything to say about technology? I think you've got a great answer to that question. And then the one I'm dying to hear is, what do we do with this new thing called AI? And how should we as Christians think about AI? If you've asked any of those questions, then please stick around. We hope to be a resource for you today. And so, Stephen, kind of kick us off. What are some things that we should be thinking about?
Yeah, I think a lot of people are thinking about this. This particular conference, the topic is actually picked by the student workers, and so they picked this topic. And then what's funny is on the way home, I attended a church, and that church is actually having a very similar conference 2 weeks from now to talk with their parents about technology use and things like that. So it is so critical. So, you know, a lot of us, we have smartphones. You're probably listening on a smartphone right now. And these things, they have a lot of positives, okay? They do everything from take notes for us to mapping to all of that. The joke's kind of worn out by now, but it's super true. Our teacher said we would never carry a calculator in our pocket, and now we do. Who would not want a smartphone? Okay, it comes with so much good. But these things also come with a lot of negatives that I think to have a whole picture of a smartphone, we have to not only just look at those incredible positives, but also those big negatives. Those things include, you know, like with unrestricted access to the internet, like pornography. And I don't want this podcast to go all TVMA, so we're not going to go super deep into it. But these people that run these sites, there's undercover video that actually shows that they target 12-year-old kids.
Wow.
That is their target demographic. Wow. And so there's a lot there, and they've actually recorded the conference. So if you want to go a little deeper into that, we will release that once all that is processed. But if you're a part of the Antioch family, or if you're not, there's other chapters around as well. There's actually a life course here called the Freedom Fight. So if you do struggle with an addiction to pornography, that would be a great life course to get involved with. But it's not only that, it's also dopamine hijacking. And that's kind of a fancy way of saying apps are really addictive, and they know how to trick our brains into coming back over and over and over again. I mean, it's hard for us adults to get off of our phones.
Yeah.
How much harder is it for an 8-year-old or a 12-year-old to get off of their phone?
Yeah.
And we are all just in love with this idea of free. But here's the catch is, if we're not paying for a product, we're not just getting it for free. That means that we are the product. And so if we're on social media and we're enjoying that for free, that actually means that we are the product, that our likes, our personalities, everything about us, all of our data is being sold to these marketers so that they can then market directly to us. And
Yeah.
so that's a really big one. Not to mention things like depression. Social media is nothing more than a highlight reel, but we compare our everyday life to everyone else's highlight reel. Or anxiety. Okay, we're always checking our notifications on our phone. If you've ever forgotten your phone, you've probably even had a phantom vibration in your pocket, right? And you check it and you're like, oh no, wait,
Yep.
I left my phone at home.
Yeah.
And studies show that it wasn't exactly when the smartphone was released, which was in 2007. The studies actually show that in late 2010 is when these anxiety, depression, self-harm, all of these things started going through the roof. And that they were like, why is it not 2007 with the smartphone? Why is it 2010? And what they found is that is when Apple introduced the front-facing camera. And that's what really allowed social media to go crazy. And so there's all kinds of depression and anxieties. There's also isolation. We are here in Georgetown. So if you're listening from outside of our church, we're in Georgetown, just outside of Austin. And one of my favorite things to tell people of all time about where we live is that Austin is both the barbecue capital of Texas and the vegan capital of Texas. And the fact that both of these things can be true at the
That
exact
doesn't even
same
seem
time.
possible.
I know.
But I know the area, and you're 100%
Yes,
correct.
yes. Well, the truth is, when it comes to who we are with smartphones, we are at the same time the most connected people that have ever walked the earth.
Yeah.
And the most isolated people
Yeah.
that have ever walked
Yeah.
the earth.
Yeah. Man, you just dropped a whole bunch of negatives. But I can hear kind of the fear. I think that's every parent's fear as they think about their child and as they think about introducing a smartphone. It's all the things that you just said. It's the pornography, the mature content, the isolation. It's the fact that we are the product that is being used and that's being sold. And as I think about that we are more connected, I don't think there's ever been a time in the history of mankind when we have been able to have instant access to the problems of the world.
Yeah.
I mean, think about it. It used to be you knew the problems of your life and maybe the problems of your family. You probably cared for your neighbors, and you kind of carried that burden. You shouldered that weight, the problems of your neighbors and community. But now, through technology, through social media, through the front-facing camera that millions of people around the world are using, we are now introduced almost instantaneously to every single problem in the world. It's a lot. That's heavy. So not only is there isolation, there's kind of the hopelessness and the depression that comes from, man, look at all that it is that's going on in the world around us. So a lot of negatives. Are there more?
There are, and we can go through these fairly quickly. There's, if you have kids, you probably heard this term brain rot. Okay, just the silly, stupid little things that just kind of take our attention away. Predators are everywhere online. Like, neither one of us would let our kids play in a sketchy alley. But, parents will often just give their kids unrestricted access to the internet. Predators don't hang out in sketchy alleys very much anymore.
Right.
Okay. Where do they hang out? They hang out on gaming apps and all kinds of things.
And they look just like
just
like you.
Yes.
Yeah.
And so that is so tough. There's also counterfeit intimacy. Like, you follow all these people on Instagram and you know their life, but it is a very one-sided intimacy. You know what they have told you, but you don't you're not known by them. It's very one-sided. Someone actually describes fame like that. What is fame? It's when people know a lot about you, but you don't know anything about them. And so not only do we have that with influencers, we also have people that are falling into AI relationships. They're actually falling in love with ChatGPT. And one of the things that I asked at the conference is that how many of you ever used ChatGPT's voice? And a lot of them raised their hands. And I said, what is she like? And I said, see, I even fell into it. AI is not a he or a she, okay? It's an it. But it sounds just like a girl. And she has a really fun personality.
Mm.
And they did that so that we can bond with something. And so we will keep using their product. And I think the last thing is just anti-discipleship. If you're a parent and you are raising your child in the knowledge of the Lord, to love the Lord and to love his church, and your church is coming alongside you to help with that, and then your child just scrolls through TikTok and is constantly inundated with anti-biblical propaganda, TikTok criticisms of, hey, well, why does the Bible say stuff like this? They can really fall into being discipled, not by the church, not by believers, but by people who want the exact opposite for their life. And so what we have to do is we have to say, okay, the smartphone, it comes with so much good. Who wouldn't want that?
Yeah.
But who would want all of those negatives? And who would want to just give that to their young child?
Yeah. I think that discipleship piece is huge. And I talked about it a little bit last week on the episode as I just kind of gave a few little references towards politics. And even as adults, right, we are being discipled by Fox News, by CNN. So it's not just a child issue. It's even an issue for us as parents.
Yes.
It's where are we getting our content? What is the source? And is that source trustworthy? And you and I have talked about this, as pastors, we preach a message on Sunday, and it's like we get 30 minutes to really speak truth into people's lives. But they've got, the other, 6 days a week, plus the other hours on Sunday to go and listen to other resources, to be discipled by the things of the world. And our kids, they're at that development phase where a lot of those discernment pieces just aren't, they're not all the way developed just yet. And so as a parent, you're a parent, I'm a parent, we're probably talking to a lot of parents, we have that responsibility. And so all those things you just said can, hey, let's be honest, it can produce a lot of fear.
Yes.
It can produce a lot of anxiety. We might want to take the ship and jerk it in the direction and say, hey, we're all just going to throw away our cell phones and we're going to live outside of technology. But I think really there's some benefits too, and we kind of gravitate towards those, and so it's kind of a wrestling match, and so
it really is. And what we know from the scripture is that we are not given a spirit of fear. So anytime that you are doing anything from a fear-based perspective, you are doing something wrong. Okay, because we should not walk in fear as believers. And so I think it's really important for us to have a good biblical understanding of technology. Yeah. And just like most everything, where does that start? I think we have to start in Genesis 1, okay? God created the heavens and the earth, and then we skip down to verse 26. And then we are created in God's image. So we are not God, but we are created in his image. In the same way, we have created AI, and AI is not us, but it is created in our image. It is an echo of God's image in us. And so we kind of have to take that and kind of understand that artificial intelligence is just a shadow of human intelligence, which comes from discovery and revelation and things like that. Which is a shadow of God's intelligence, which comes from just the fact that he is God. And so when we look at that from a kind of a Genesis 1 perspective, we get that, but we also have to add in Genesis chapter 3, that it's not just that AI is created in our image, and so it's a lesser version of us. It also reflects our fallenness. AI is programmed by us, by fallen programmers, and so it is going to get things wrong. It is going to be used for immoral purposes. It's going to make things up, and it's going to lie because it's made in our image. And so I think we have to have a really correct understanding of where it came from. But I think we also have to know that AI, as real as she sounds, as helpful as it can be, and for however it progresses after this moment, it will never have God's breath of life in it.
Right.
And so I think having a proper understanding of the theology of technology really has to start with Genesis 1 and Genesis 3. And if we fast forward to Genesis chapter 11, this is the Tower of Babel. And kind of the short version is, if you've not read it, and I highly recommend you go read it, the people, they're gathering and they want to build this giant tower, and they have this new technology called the brick. And they are going to do this. And the thing is, technology is neutral. Okay, technology is not good nor bad. And so this technology in Genesis 11, the brick, it wasn't a good brick or a bad brick. It was just a brick. Okay, and it's the same with our smartphones. Okay, smartphones are not good morally, and they are not bad morally. They are just neutral. It depends completely on how humans use it. So this brick from Genesis 11, it can be used to smash a window. It can be used to build a hospital. It is all about the intent of the user. And so if we go in, I just want to read one verse from Genesis chapter 11. The people, as they're constructing this tower, they say, "Come, let us build ourselves a city and a tower with its top in the sky. Let's make a name for ourselves. Otherwise, we will be scattered throughout the earth." And so, is it wrong to build a tower? No. What was wrong is they said, hey, let's make a name for ourselves. It was for self-glory. Then they said, if we don't do this, otherwise we'll be scattered throughout the whole earth, okay? This was just flagrant disobedience to God's call for them to multiply and to fill the earth. And so what does God do? He confuses their language, the construction is halted, and people do spread throughout the earth. And so we have this technology, which is neither good nor bad, but was used by people who wanted to disobey God for an evil, immoral, sinful purpose.
That's so good, and so rich and so true. It just reminds me, as I hear you talking, Stephen, like that, it's still kind of the motivation of mankind today. Not just the self-glory piece, building a name for ourselves, but almost it's the self-preservation piece. It's what can I do to control my life, to preserve my life. And it's almost like you see it so clearly through the lens of the Bible that we're eternal beings and we long for that eternity. And it's like we'll do anything within our technological advancement to try to hang on to and cling to this life, whether it's technology like AI or whether it's even medical type advancements. Hey, what can we do to preserve and care for this life? But we know that because of sin, there's this thing called death, and we are held accountable for our sin. And so our true life, the way we truly get to self-preserve, is through a relationship with Jesus Christ. And I think the enemy knows that for all of us, and so he's going to introduce things that really serve as a counterfeit to that self preservation. So
yeah, and for a lot of parents, they really reflect back on their own childhood when it comes to technology and things like that. And when it comes to the bricks of our childhood, right? We had things, but they didn't include unrestricted access to the internet because the internet had not been, truly invented yet, right?
Yeah.
And so parents, they're just kind of building their strategy on hope. They're like, okay, I'm really going to hope that my kids are not going to do this, or I hope they don't stumble into that. And can I tell you, hope is not a great strategy in any area.
Right.
Okay. And so when it comes to this one in particular, what we really have to do is build our strategy on God's timeless wisdom. Because our kids, they are going to be taught. They're either going to be taught by us or they're going to be taught by their own feeds. Okay. Kids are going to be discipled. They're either going to be discipled by us as parents or they're going to be discipled by algorithms. And so what we have to do is we have to give them the wisdom and the appropriate boundaries that they need to thrive as they are still being developed. So I would like to read a quote, if you don't mind.
Okay.
And I want you to tell me if it sounds like something that you could have read this morning.
Okay.
Okay. All right, here we go. People will cease to exercise their own thinking, because they rely on AI, no longer pondering within themselves, but by means of algorithms and machine learning. Okay, so Andy, does that sound like something that you could have read on Facebook today?
Absolutely, 100%.
Okay. What if I told you that that quote is 2,400 years old? I just changed a few words. Here's the actual quote.
Is this one of those like Abraham Lincoln said, "Don't trust the internet"?
Kind of, except this one is
true.
This one is true. Okay. Here's what Plato said about a new technology called handwriting.
Okay. I'm with you.
He said, I'm against handwriting because people will cease to exercise memory, because they will rely on that which is written, calling things to remembrance, no longer from within themselves, but by means of external marks.
That's crazy.
Okay, like we think of handwriting as like foundational, right?
Yeah. In fact, we think of the memory piece before as like, how did they do that? How in the world did they memorize, books of the Bible? And we think that's like impossible.
Yeah.
Because handwritten is just, it's the norm.
Yeah,
it's
exactly.
the standard.
And in Plato, he is reacting to this newfangled technology of writing things down. And he's saying, it's going to make people lazy. I don't know about that. We shouldn't do that. Books should not be invented. You don't need a grocery list. Just remember everything that you need.
Can you imagine like Plato, like to his son, like, put down that book. Like, stop reading.
Here's the thing. Every new technology, it's going to have some resistance as it comes in. So whether it was the internet a few decades ago, whether it was social media about a decade ago, or whether it's AI today, it is going to have detractors. And don't mishear me. New technologies do have risks and they do have downsides, but the doom and gloom is usually overblown, right? It's not as bad as people think. And so if there were two things that I wanted people to walk away with, like two truths to hold on to, the first one is, remember, technology is neutral, okay? It's like a brick. It's neither good nor bad. It's all in how it's used. But the second one is that we don't need to fear the tool. We need to form the user.
That's good.
I think that's so important. Again, we don't have a spirit of fear. We're not supposed to do that. And we shouldn't fear any new technology. What we have to do is make sure that we are forming the kids that God has entrusted us with to be able to use this technology in a good and wise way. So before we go on to 5, I think, really practical pieces of wisdom, I want to share one more moment of technology from the Bible. Okay? If you're at home, you're listening to this podcast, I want you to think, where is Stephen going with this? Romans chapter 5. In the middle of Paul talking about Christ, he says this, and you know this. You've just never noticed this phrase before.
Okay.
While we were still helpless, at the right time, Christ died for the ungodly. Okay? We tend to hold on to the first third and the last third. For while we were still helpless, Christ died for the ungodly. But it says in there, at the right time. And Paul even uses that same phrase one more time in the New Testament, talking when Christ came. So when was the right time? God was looking for a moment in history. As he looked at history from the beginning to the end, he was looking for the right time. It was a time with a specific technology. There were lots of things. Okay, the world was united in peace through Rome. They were united in language with Greece. But there was a particular technology that really enabled the gospel to spread fast. It was the Roman road. So whereas a brick in Genesis chapter 11 was used to disobey God, now a brick laid out on a road was used to spread the good news of Jesus Christ faster than ever. Bricks, not good, they're not bad. It all depends on how they are being used. And so a camera, can it be used by the porn industry for great evil? Of course. Yeah. Can a camera also be used in a really great way. Let's break the fourth wall really quick in something like a podcast like we're
Yeah.
in right now. The truth is, it all depends on how they're used. Don't fear the tool. Form the user. There's a moment in 1 Samuel chapter 13. We won't read all the verses, but what it talks about is a moment where the Philistines were oppressing the nation of Israel. And it says that they owned all the blacksmith shops and would not allow any blacksmiths to operate in the kingdom of Israel. And so it says that all throughout the land, there were no blacksmith shops, and only Saul and Jonathan had weapons of war. Here's the truth that I think we should get from that. When the enemy controls the tools of technology, God's people are disadvantaged. So we, as God's people, should use those same tools for God's glory. There are stories like the Bible app that have been downloaded 990 million times. There are almost 1 billion people who have the Bible app downloaded on their phone. And that is a use of technology that is crazy.
Yeah.
I mean, it's absolutely phenomenal. Or there's a guy in our church who grabbed a Bible, and because he wanted to discover truth. He had been a Buddhist and then an atheist, and he was like, I'm just going to read the Bible and see what's up. And he started reading it. He was convicted. This is the truth. And he didn't know any Christians to reach out to. So what did he do? He searched how to become a Christian on Instagram. Like we can look with bad and with disdain on all of these technological advancements, but they're not good and they're not bad. It's all in how they are used. So what I would like to do, Andy, is I would like to really go a lot of back and forth here about 5 principles that I think would really help parents when they are trying to navigate, whether they have a 16-year-old now or whether they have a 6-year-old now or maybe they have a 6-month-old now.
Yeah.
I think these are all questions that parents have to wrestle with. And I think you have to, as parents, contextualize these principles to your own family. You know, a lot of times we hear about like people who are sharing the gospel in foreign lands, that they contextualize the message, you know, to that culture. Well, I think there are a lot of principles in Scripture that we also have to contextualize to our own community as pastors, but then to our own families. I know the very first place I served in, it was a very impoverished community, and like the vehicle that drove by that everyone stared at was the guy that had a new F-150, right? Like that was the hot vehicle in town. No joke. On the way here, I was behind a Lamborghini. And like it didn't even faze me. I was like, oh, no wonder it's so loud. It's a Lamborghini, right? They're different places, and different peoples. And so I think these are 5 principles that you need to say, okay, how does this fit into my life?
That's great. And if I could back up just for a second, you know, talking about like YouVersion, I just heard a story 2 weeks ago from a Muslim who is now a professing Christian, actually looking to go and plant a church. And he talked about how he was over in the Middle East with his dad, and just was reading the Quran and just was unsettled. Like this was not true. It can't be. And so he said, so someone said, you need to read the Bible. And he's like, I didn't have a Bible. I didn't have access to a Bible. And so he said, so I went on my phone and downloaded the YouVersion app. And so there is a personal testimony right there of someone who used that technology to be introduced to who Jesus Christ is, and is now going out to plant a church kind of from that. These principles for parents, if I could just give a charge to the parents, like don't check out at this point. Like this is kind of like, what do we do with the information that you've just shared? And Stephen, like man, I'm sitting here listening, and man, you've studied, you've prepared, you've put together just some amazing thoughts on both the negative side of technology that gives us kind of the warning, but also, hey, there's a positive use here. And so let's not make it about the thing or the technology, which is what we often do, but let's make it about the person who's using the thing and how do we speak into their lives. And so if you're a parent, just a reminder, you are called to be a shepherd to your children. Your children are a gift from God that you are to raise up in the fear and the knowledge of the Lord. And as a shepherd, there is a protector piece of that, not an overprotector. Like we understand that God's the ultimate protector, but we've been given a charge. There's a protector piece of that. There's a feeding piece of that, like actually teaching and guiding our kids. And there's a leading in that. And when I say leading, I want to say like we're leading by example. I think one of the worst things that we can do that kind of undercuts the message of a parent is when we tell our kids to do things that we're not doing ourselves. When we're telling our kids they're spending too much time on the phones, but then we're the ones who are glued in and locked into our phones. And so 5 things. Let's start with number 1. What do you got?
Yeah. And these apply to parents of all ages and even non-parents. So even if you're trying to just influence the people in your small group, the people in your friend group, these can all apply. And you've actually started into the first one already, and it's just model godly behavior. Proverbs 27 says, "The righteous person acts with integrity. His children who come after him will be happy." Okay, integrity meaning they're whole, right? Integer is a whole number.
Right.
You're not being divided. You're not
No
saying,
cracks.
"Hey kid, you do this, but me, I'm gonna sit here and hunch over my phone just like this." We are saying, okay, what I'm asking you to do, I am first modeling myself, because kids, they model things after their parents. I mean, Andy, how many times have you seen your children do something negative and you think, "Oh, that's me"?
Yeah, all the time.
Yeah.
You see things and you're quick to kind of point it out, right? 'Cause it's evident, and then you pause and think about it, and you're like, okay, they got that from dad.
Yeah. And so it sounds cliche, but it really has to start with you at home. The models that the behaviors that you model are the ones that they are going to follow. And so if you don't want them to be constantly staring at their phone, you don't need to constantly stare at yours. And so I think that is a really big deal for us at the Castleberry house. And I'm not saying that we are perfect at this, because I personally struggle with this so hard. We don't have phones at the table. I can't even keep it in my pocket. Okay. Like we just have like a no phones out at the table. But for me, I have to add like an extra rule on top of that. I literally put it on the counter to where I cannot see it. Because if I feel it vibrate or I think that there's something that I need to check, I will instantaneously just pull it out and start looking. And I've gotten myself into trouble so often with that. And so we really try to say, hey, definitely not at the table. And then while kids are present, we're just not going to have them out. Like if we have to answer something really quick, things happen, at the church, and like we need to like, hey, this just happened. You get this message, things like that. But then we try not to let it linger. We're not just scrolling through X or Instagram or anything like that while our kids are playing. We want to be present with the people who are actually present.
One of the things that I did several years ago that I've kind of forgotten I've done, but I think it addresses here, is I turned off my email notification. There used to be a season in life where if I got an email, my phone dinged, and I found myself just constantly, that ding, it's like it's like the dog when the bell goes off. I got to go to where the food is. When the ding happened, it was, you're pulling out your phone to check, hey, what's that email? And 98 times out of 100, it's something completely pointless and worthless information or whatever it was. And so by turning off that notification on email was helpful for me. And then being able to schedule time in my day, like this is my email time. And so we live in a world of constant connectivity. And I think it's good for us to acknowledge between one another, like, not everything has to be answered immediately. Every email does not have to be replied to, within the next 5 seconds or checked within the next 5 seconds. And dare I say, like, not even text messages either. I think it's healthy to even incorporate times in our day of like, I'm going to respond to text messages, between 11 a.m. and noon. Or else we just get in the habit of just like always checking. And it's just not a great habit to get caught in.
Yeah, definitely. And that's really number 2. Like we've got to set appropriate boundaries. We have to do that for ourselves, which I've had to start doing the same thing, because if you let your smartphone sit in the driver's seat of your life, it will drive you. But you've got to put it in the passenger seat. You've got to put it in the back seat. Sometimes you have to throw it in the trunk.
Yeah.
Okay. You cannot let your smartphone be in the driver's seat of your life. And so we have to set those appropriate boundaries with ourselves. We also have to set those appropriate boundaries with our kids. Paul writes to the Corinthians, everything is permissible for me, but not everything is beneficial. Everything is permissible for me, but I will not be mastered by anything. We have got to step into this idea that we are the God-given parents to the kids that God has given us. We are not like some of the parents. We are the parents of our kids.
Yeah,
and there
that's
is
good.
no one else on the planet with that responsibility. Like, if we fail in that, if we abdicate our responsibility, there's not like parents B or parents C that God is saying, oh, it's okay. What we have to do is we have to step into that responsibility and not try to be friends with our kids, because our kids have a lot of friends. They have a lot of buds, but they only have two parents.
Right.
And so we have got to say, I don't care whether or not my kid thinks I'm the coolest person on the planet, because what I'm here to do is raise godly adults, not be friends first with my kids. Hey, if our kids are friends to us, that's a bonus. That's like a cherry on top.
Yeah.
But it's not the main thing.
Yeah. We should enjoy spending time with our kids. They are fun. Like you should think your kids are amazing, because they are. They are your kids. But kind of in that abdication piece, I don't know if you're going to talk about this or if it fits here. I think one of the things that we all kind of see parents do in abdicating that responsibility is we literally abdicate parenting to a screen.
Yes.
Here, watch this, and it's almost like the kids are a nuisance or they're a bother, and so it's like, hey, just go be entertained by this. Go let this movie or this iPad be the babysitter for a while, so that I can sit on my phone or do work or do whatever it is. But I think that's a clear example of abdicating the parent role, is just turning our kids over to a screen.
And do we all have moments like that where we need that? Of course.
Yeah.
But is that our default? Like, okay, I just don't want, keyword want, to deal with you right now.
Yeah.
Let me just give you some YouTube for a while.
Yeah. Go be silent.
Right. Yeah.
Get out of the way. Yeah.
Yeah. We have got to
Dangerous.
continually engage with our kids.
Yeah.
And we have to give those clear boundaries.
Yeah.
Right. We got to say, hey, look, this is what we are doing as a family. This is what we have decided to do. And kids are going to push on those boundaries.
Yeah.
And we have to be okay with them pushing on those boundaries and not giving in.
Yeah. And they're going to find ways around the boundaries.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
And so if your parenting strategy is, hey, I have these kind of lockdowns in place, my kid is safe, like there's always ways around it. In fact, I think if you go back to the Garden of Eden, what did God want most with Adam and Eve? He wanted relationship. The first command wasn't don't eat. The first command was you are free to eat. And so it was out of that relationship with the Lord that there was this boundary that they couldn't cross. And so I would kind of encourage parents, like, don't just trust in all the parameters and boxes that you've put. You can't have the phone after 8:00, and you've got security limits on the Wi-Fi at home. All that stuff is good and all, but if you're trusting in that, you're bypassing the relationship. And what the child needs most is a relationship with the parent.
100%.
And so there can be conversation and there could be a trust. And in our house, again, I don't want to steal any thunder of anything that might be coming, but there's a phone that our kids have access to that we have access to. There's no privacy like in the home. It's like, hey, we can read your text messages.
Privacy is not a right that kids have.
It's not. Absolutely not. Yeah. Anyway.
Yeah. And this is where I think that things really have to be contextualized for each family, because it would be easy for me to say, at this age they should do this, at this age they should do this, at this age they should do this. But that is, one, me very much generalizing what should happen. And two, that's also legalism, right? So what I think we have to do is we have to say, okay, there are some questions that are not right and wrong questions. They are wise or unwise questions. And so for our house, we don't give our kids unrestricted access to the internet. My kids right now are 9, 7, and 5. And we don't do that. And what we want to do is when they turn probably around 13, this whole plan is written in pencil, okay? But around 13, we want to get them, we're an Apple family, and so we're going to get them an Apple Watch, which gives them all the communication tools they could ever need without unrestricted access to the internet. And then, maybe around 16, that's when we plan on introducing them to their first smartphone and letting them have that responsibility and that freedom, because you're right, both of those things, they're tied together.
Yeah.
And then after that, introducing them to the most dangerous thing, which is social media.
Yeah.
But again, those are not hard rules for everyone. Everyone has got to decide not what is right and what is wrong for their family, but what is wise for their family. And I think it's so important.
If I could just share, because people may be curious, rules are kind of similar in our household. We don't have the Apple Watch metric number, but just based on some research, our philosophy has kind of been no cell phone, no smartphone until after puberty, which you're kind of getting into that 15, 16 year range, different for every kid. So it's not a legalistic thing. And then no social media until 18.
Okay.
And so even though the rules that you've just said, there's a lot of science behind that says when a child is actually addicted to a smartphone or addicted to a technology pre-puberty, those things are kind of more ingrained into their character and into their mind and much harder to break after the fact. And so if you can hold off just a little bit longer, you're setting your child up for success.
We've talked about this a lot from the pulpit at church, but there are these neurological pathways that are built in the brain, and it's this wiring of the brain, which really goes back to Romans 12, verse 2, about how we are renewed in our minds through God's word. But yeah, you're right. There's this rewiring of our brains, this growth in our brains that happens during that time of being tweens or teens, and whatever we are letting our kids be constantly exposed to during that time is being hardwired into their brain for the rest of their life, and it is hard to unlearn something.
Yeah,
it's so hard.
Yeah.
So it really does. It comes back to what you think as a parent, and you, after seeking God through His Word and through prayer, this is the path that we as a family are going to take forward, and that has got to be something that they look at themselves.
Yeah. So we've looked at modeling it.
Mm-hmm.
We've looked at teaching discernment.
Well, boundaries. I think the next thing is that discernment piece.
Okay.
And the reason I would kind of separate that from boundaries is boundaries is more external. I, as a parent, am giving that to you. But kind of the last three are things that we need to impart, wisdom that we need to impart to our kids. And it's teaching discernment. How do we teach our kids not only the difference between right and wrong, but the difference between right and almost right? Yeah. Proverbs 14:15 says, "The inexperienced one believes anything, but the sensible one watches his steps." People probably heard me talk about the 4 people of Proverbs before. Okay, we all start off as simple or as inexperienced. And as we gain more experience in life, we will either become wise or we will become fools. But what we have got to do is take that experience and what we have noticed about the world, and we have to bake it into every decision that we make. So just teaching kids discernment about things, not only in broad context, like I should not get on this app or I should do this, but even in moments of, hey, I'm doing this online game and I'm now 24 and my parents have kind of taught me all this wisdom, but because they gave me this gift of discernment, I know, I probably shouldn't continue doing this because I have started playing a little bit more, and then I've started playing even more, and now it's really starting to take over my life. that would be some wisdom that they are still calling back on years after they've left our house. And so really teaching them that kind of discernment, I think, is so important.
I think one of the ways just to help guide your children in the discerning is even pausing movies or TV shows or things that if you're watching together as a family, things that are said maybe on screen that are incongruent with Scripture, incongruent with truth.
Yeah.
Very often, Aaron's really good at this, about pausing the whatever it is that was said and then kind of looking at the girls and saying, hey, what did you hear? What's the lie? And what's the truth? And then press and play. And you kind of continued on. And so
we're not dwelling on it for like 2 hours.
Yeah,
We're getting back to the movie.
They're being exposed to those things, but they're being exposed to them in a safe environment. Again, drawing back on that conversation with mom and dad.
Yeah.
And not mom and dad saying, hey, you should believe this way just because we said it. But actually inviting them into the questions and into the conversation.
Yeah, you're not thinking for your kids. You're teaching them how to think in a biblical way.
Yeah.
I think it's so important.
Yeah.
So we're teaching discernment, but we're also teaching kids, this is number 4, how to guard their heart. You guys have all heard that proverb, above all else, guard your heart, for everything you do flows from it. I think kids have to learn their own weaknesses because they're going to have friends that don't have those same weaknesses, and they need to know that, okay, it's okay for my friend to do this on Instagram, for instance, but it's not okay for me because maybe this particular thing really pulls my heart away. Jesus says, hey, if your eye causes you to sin, what do? You throw it out, you pluck it out. And so we kind of need to teach kids to set up boundaries for themselves. So as parents, we are setting up those boundaries, and then we're teaching kids to recognize things inside themselves and kind of police their own thoughts and intentions and behaviors and patterns.
Yeah, I think again a practical application to that. It's easy for a child to go on YouTube and just watch one short after another short after another short after another short, but kind of guarding the heart on the front end instead of being reactive to scenarios, being proactive of like, okay, we've got this time set aside, dinner's over, homework's done. You can turn on the TV, but how many episodes are you going to watch?
Right.
Because if you're on Amazon, if you're on Netflix, Disney Plus, it's like it's going to auto give you the next one. Why? Because you're the product. They're making money off of you, and so kind of being proactive with that on the front end, going, all right, we're going to watch one, we're going to watch two. What's the game plan here? And then sticking to it.
Yeah. One of the best things you can do on the internet is turn off autoplay. Right.
Yeah.
So it just does not go to the next one. You have to manually go to the next one. Does it add, 3 whole seconds of a next step? Yes. But it does. It keeps you from going to bed at 2 a.m.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah, absolutely. That's good. That's good.
And then this is the final one. I think we've got to teach kids to use technology for God's glory. Again, we're not living in a spirit of fear. Paul says, so whether you eat or drink or whatever you do everything for the glory of God. What we need is not a generation of Christians who are fearful, but a generation of Christians who know how to use technology for good. And we can't just, again, hope that those Christians show up. What we have to do is we have to raise those Christians in our own households, and then as pastors and as teachers and Bible classes for kids and student ministry and all those things, we have to raise those believers. Because again, we're not raising kids, we are raising godly adults.
It puts the end game in mind, when you say it like that. And it's where we've got a certain amount of time with our kids. And it's not just addressing the moment or the day or the situation, but it's kind of getting back to that kind of bigger perspective of what's my role here as a parent, and what exactly are we trying to produce here with our kids. Hopefully not just mini me's. We don't need more little Andys or little Stevens, running
mini
around.
Jesuses.
But a generation who is sold out for the kingdom of God, committed to Him, and ready to take on the world. for His glory.
I think if I could address maybe one thing that I think people who are listening right now, I guarantee you a good deal of them are thinking this thing right now. And it really starts with a verse that I've been meditating a lot on recently. It's Romans 12:21. It says, "Do not be conquered by evil, but conquer evil with good." And if we just take this verse, it's kind of got a negative meaning, which is true. We don't fight evil with evil, right? But it also has a positive meaning that we do fight evil with good. So how do we fight evil with good in this brave new world that we are living in with smartphones and social media and all of that stuff? Can I tell you, we fight evil with good the same way the first century believers did, by resilient discipleship and forming kids well. There's truly nothing new under the sun. And yeah, our tech looks different. Our bricks look different, but our world is actually the same. First century Christians, those Christians that existed right after Christ was resurrected in that early church that we always look back on, they faced a very similar world. It was hostile to their faith. It was crazy. We can actually go back. There's a book by Petronius where he actually is writing a work of fiction, but really kind of illustrates what that first century was like. And it says that the first century was so eerily close to today that transgenderism was big, cross-dressing was big, atheism was big, decadence was big. There were all kinds of evil. Your child could walk down the street and see temple prostitutes and all of these things. And so when parents say, but how do we raise our kids today? We actually raise them just like they did 2,000 years ago. It's the same world, just with newer bricks. So I think our call as parents, as Jesus followers, as Christians, as people of faith, is to conquer the evil world, not with more evil, but with good, and by focusing on raising good, godly adults for that next generation.
So good. It's challenging, Stephen. Thank you. It's also encouraging and gives hope to me. And so no doubt giving hope to everyone who is listening. Just to tag a final thought on that, the greatest gift I think we can give our kids is to be a fully devoted follower of Jesus Christ. Let it be real. Let your relationship with Christ be not the afterthought, but the first, the primary thought. Let your kids see you reading the Bible. Let your kids see you lead the family to go to church, and that will make more of a mark and a difference when they see that your Christianity just isn't something that takes place for an hour on Sunday, but something that is true and is real and something that they will desire to mimic as well. Stephen, man, a lot of good hard work, a lot of good study and preparation. Glad you had a great conference, and thank you for taking time to share that with our church family and this audience here on the Growing Forward podcast.
Yeah, and we will post those full teachings whenever they're available.
Hey, do us a favor. If you know of another parent who would be encouraged by this episode, would you do us a favor and just share this with them, whatever platform it is that you are listening or watching on? We would be so grateful for that. If Stephen was a blessing to you, give this video a thumbs up. It'll be a blessing to him as well. Hey, hope you guys have a blessed week. Until next Wednesday, keep growing forward.